Ambassador Brahimi, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining me again on this program. You've been trying to get...
Thank you very much.
You've been trying to get all sides together for a long time now. You had hoped to do so in the summer. What has changed? Why now?
Look, it is embarrassing that we haven't been able to fix this date for so long. But I think this tells you how very, very complicated the situation in Syria is, how difficult the problem is, how far apart the parties are, and this is why it has taken such a long time to make sure that all those concerned are more or less on the same page.
But are they? Because we don't even know who's going. You haven't even extended an invitation list, I understand, unless that's changed.
Yes, sure.
The government says it's going. The opposition hasn't told you yes or no. The armed opposition says it's not going. The others don't even know whether they're going. So what's different now? Why now?
It is very, very different because the government is saying plainly, clearly that they are coming without any preconditions. The opposition are saying that they are coming, although they have questions, fears, and doubts. But they said they are coming, and they will be coming. And we have always been conscious of the fact that all we can hope for is what I call a delegation that is reasonably representative. You see, the fracturing of society in Syria is such that you cannot hope to have everybody, every single group and individual represented in the beginning of this process. Mm-hmm. If we have a group that is reasonably representative of the political opposition to the present regime, I think we can start.
All right, let me ask...
It will be a long and complicated process, but I think it's good that we start.
All right, you said the government is coming with no preconditions. Well, our Fred Pleitgen interviewed the Deputy Foreign Minister. He says, yeah, no preconditions, but immediately set a condition, which is that President Assad would be involved in any government transition in Syria. Is that acceptable to you?
What has been said is that there will be no preconditions, but once the conference starts, the parties will be free to put on the table issues that they feel strongly about, it being very clear that what we are going to discuss is the implementation of the declaration of the 30th of June 2012. Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about, you know, initially, the communique that you refer to said that there has to be a substantial cessation of hostilities. That does not look to be the point. So that's changed, right? No ceasefire.
Yeah, sure. There will be no ceasefire. And I don't think that, you know, things have changed since 2012. Unfortunately, not for the better. So we are now calling on the parties who are coming to Geneva to see if they can take any confidence-building measures like diminishing the level of violence, like releasing prisoners, and similar things like that, like also facilitating the arrival of humanitarian aid to the millions of people who need it inside Syria.
Well, sorry, I just wanted I wanted to ask you about that because the initial communique also says that in order for these talks to go forth, there have to be a set of agreements. Number one, to intensify the pace and scale of the release of those who've been arbitrarily detained, and this you've said the government has to do. The government has to ensure the freedom of movement throughout the country for journalists, and it has to respect the freedom of association and the right to demonstrate. I mean, are any of those, have any of those been met?
No. I think, you know, the situation has worsened beyond recognition. You know, in end of June 2012, the situation was still largely a government heavily armed and using its force to repress a rebellion and a few people that were armed and fighting it. Now, I think the situation is much worse. So we will be very happy to see, these measures taking place. But I think we have accepted, everybody has accepted, that most of these things will happen after the conference starts, not before.
And what about the very, very urgent need for humanitarian relief? That has also been demanded from the government. Now, from when you first started
it's demanded from both sides now.
Right, and 120 or more thousand people have been killed, 2 million or so refugees. We just heard that 11,500 children have been killed. Polio is again raging, disease is raging. What commitment do you have and can you get as a precondition for the talks to open humanitarian corridors?
There is a lot of activity taking place on that score. The government has made some very promising promises about improving the access as far as they are concerned. On the other side, we are also talking to all the people that we can talk to so that they, on their side, also do what is necessary to allow, we don't say freedom of movement of the humanitarians, but to allow humanitarians to move a little bit better than they are until now. Yesterday in Geneva, there was a very big conference with the participation of a very large number of countries, discussing only these issues. The Security Council members, as you know, they published a presidential statement on the subject, and they are still following this issue with some countries suggesting that perhaps a resolution further to the presidential statement is necessary. The thing is, there are some very unacceptable situations in this field, areas that are surrounded by the government, where, inside the surrounded area you have both fighters and civilian population, and the civilian population is not allowed to receive anything. In other areas, it is the opposition that surrounds some areas and doesn't allow food and other items to get to the civilians. This is totally unacceptable, and the United Nations, the ICRC are doing their very best, and it is that this is now being discussed in capitals and at the United Nations, in Geneva, in New York, is a welcome development. I hope it will produce results.
Iran, is it invited? Yeah. Should it be invited? Can it play a positive role? The list of invitees, of participants, has not been completed because there are, as I'm sure you know, some differences on a number of countries. One of them is Iran. I think, let me add immediately that the Secretary General of the United Nations, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, have always said that Iran should be there. I have spoken at length to the Iranians. I'm grateful to them for the attitude they are taking now by saying, look, if you think you can invite us without any conditions, we'll be happy to come and we will be constructive. If you can't, that's fine. We will be supportive anyway. But what does that mean, Mr. Brahimi? Because Iran, let's face it, is the reason that President Assad is hanging on. Iran's military help, its revolutionary guards on the ground, the Hezbollah link. Everybody says that it's Iran that keeps President Assad in power. First of all, do you agree?
Everybody says that. I don't think that President Bashar Assad says that or Iran says that.
No, okay, but those who are looking
they
objectively.
don't say that, yeah. Those who are looking objectively or not is debatable, isn't it?
Well, then why do you think they should be invited then? Do they have a big role or not?
You know, in a conference like this, you don't invite only onlookers. You invite people who have influence. And what you are, if half of what you say is true, then Iran must have a hell of a lot of influence. And that is why it should be there. And I think, you know, in our region, in the Middle East, you know, Iran and Saudi Arabia are two very important countries. And I definitely would welcome the help that they can provide by being in the conference, and more importantly, by being close to the process after the conference. The conference, you know, the international part of the conference is one day. You know, much more important than the speeches that will be made on that day is for, you know, governments to be mobilized, to be motivated, to be involved and supporting the process, even if they are not in the room of the negotiation.
Okay, and final question. Will this conference take place, and what do you expect to be the result of it?
Look, the date has been set. I think, you know, I met some people from the opposition yesterday. The government has made a statement today saying a lot of other things, but saying very clearly, confirming very clearly that they'll be there. I think I'm absolutely certain that all the countries who will be invited will be there, so the conference will start. After the first international day, then we move to the meat, if you like. You see, the difference between Geneva I and Geneva II is that in Geneva II, you are going to have two Syrian delegations. And the real aim, the substantive aim of the conference is for these two parties to sit together and start talking about how to end the tragedy in their country, how to put an end to this war, how to build what I call the new Syrian Republic. So that will happen. You know, the conference opens on the 22nd of January, and on the 23rd, this work between the two parties, with the presence of the United Nations only, will start. Look, we are also asking the two parties to kindly nominate their delegations before the end of the year and give us that the list of their representatives so that we can talk to them. You know, I'll be very happy to go to Damascus again and talk to this delegation, go to wherever the other delegation wants to see me, and I'll be happy to talk to them, to understand what they are coming, what kind of ideas they are coming with, what are their, you know, immediate aims, fears, hopes, and, you know, I will tell them also a thing or two about how we see that, you know, this conference proceeding, and I hope that I will keep next to these meetings between the two parties, certainly the Russians, the Americans, and as many other people who have influence and interest as possible, so that we can push the process forward. We have you know, we're going into this with our eyes open. We know it's not going to be easy. We know, you know, that there are hurdles already now as we speak, and there will be more hurdles as we come nearer to the conference. There will be hurdles when the conference starts, but as far as the United Nations is concerned, I believe that the Russians and the Americans, who have been our partners in what we call the trilateral process, also are with us on this. We want this to succeed. We want Syria to get out of this black tunnel it has been engulfed in, and terrorism, because terrorism does exist in Syria, and it is rejected by both parties, and, you know, pedal back from the brink where they are now to a quieter, less violence first, no violence, and then hopefully national reconciliation and the building of the new Syria.
Do you think one side or the other feels that they're winning right now?
Less than, some time ago, both sides were absolutely certain that they are winning. Mm-hmm. I think there is a little bit more doubt now.
Okay. So you think this...
both sides now tell me there is no military solution. To be precise, individuals on each side tell me that there is no military solution. I mean, they agree with us at long last that there is no military solution to this tragedy.
It's a massive mountain that you have undertaken to climb, and we wish you all the best.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, Christiane. Thank you very much indeed for having me.
Thank you.